Hi everyone. Thanks for being here and welcome. So today I have chosen, or in a way I've probably been more guided. I'm going to actually clarify that and say I feel that I have been guided to talk about those of us on a spiritual path, which you're probably on or you wouldn't be watching this, to talk about probably one of the most challenging issues to deal with on this path is to really get a grasp that we are not in control. To really let go completely of that belief that we are in control, but we're not in control. So we believe very strongly from the beginning of certain ages, we're pretty much taught to believe, yes, we're in control of our destiny, we just have to work harder. If we haven't gotten what we wanted, we have to be disciplined. If we want to be whatever it is, then you get disciplined because you're in control. So it's even challenging to talk about because there's so many levels that we're all on in terms of this idea. On a personal level, I totally get, I totally understand. In fact, it's almost sometimes a relief to understand or get that I'm not in control. I'm not. Yet, I can say that, and I can also get triggered by certain situations or circumstances, and my ego jumps in, and I forget that I'm not in control, and I get right back into that situation, or by either resisting what's happening, which is pretty much what I'll do, or even the mind starts racing into how am I going to fix this, or what am I going to do about that, and I'm off to the races. But yet, there's the more, particularly when I think I'm meditating, or if I am having a challenge or being triggered by something going on in my life, making me think that I need to be in control. Through meditation, through getting back into grounding, I can then at least get to that place where I'm really clear I'm not in control. Do I like it? Not necessarily. Really, one of the most I'm going to call terrifying things for us to realize as a human is we're not in control. It's really the end of the ego. So the ego is terrified to want to support that idea, let's say. Doesn't. But let's talk about how this, besides just saying, okay, we're not in control of what? Well, here's the story. We volunteer when we're in spirit or source or light beings or whatever you think about as the non-form. So as that being, we volunteer to drop into the human form. And when we volunteer to do this, we also are involved in putting the whole storyline together of what it is that we want to experience while we're in this human form. And there is no good or bad to it. It's just the story. So somebody, some being, some spirit might want to volunteer to come in and be in a horrific accident and end up spending one's life in a wheelchair. That's a storyline, and then there's a whole story around that. This is kind of to answer the question, why do bad things happen to good people? Well, there aren't any bad things happening to good people. It's just what was put together. So we basically are the producer and the director and the screenwriter and the actor for this journey that we're on. or the one of these journeys that we're on. And this is where people get confused, because and I'm sure you have, we hear that same idea presented with, hey, you can make anything happen that you want. You can turn your life any way, which way you want to, because you are the director, the producer, the screenwriter, etc. of your life. But the truth of what really happens is we as I said, we volunteer to drop down into this human body. We volunteer to play out whatever the storyline's going to be. We are the main character in that story, but that's it, the character. That's all it is. It's an actor, like an actor playing out a role. And then we have all the other volunteers that have volunteered and agreed to be in our play, in our book, whatever we want to call it. So we have the support actors that support this whole thing, and they're playing different roles. And that's the way the human can understand it. It's much more what we could think of complex as a human. This is the only way we can begin with words to understand what happens. So we come into this idea, first of all, and we have the whole play or book that we're going to be doing. We actually come in with a blueprint of how this is all going to play out. So in doing that, we're choosing our parents, and that somebody is going to play our parents, and our culture, and the whole ball of wax. And so what happens then, and to support this idea that we have a blueprint of how this is going to play itself out, we then get programmed by the parents and the families and the culture and all of that between the ages up until 10. We are soaking in all these beliefs and all these the cultural environment that we're in, and even teachers, etc. We're soaking in other words, and it is like a computer program. we're taking it all in, and from 10 on, we are then just playing it out. We're being programmed. We are programmed to live out this blueprint that we've come in with. So when we say we're not in control, we're not. It's already been done. And to understand that we're not in control is what oftentimes is called an awakening. When we all of a sudden grasp and wake up to where really what we are is an aspect of God, or aspect of source, or aspect of the intelligent divine, however you like to speak of it. But basically, we come in with this aspect of who we really are, which is unlimited, formless, and an aspect of, I like to say, an aspect of God. Some people like it better, an aspect of source. Doesn't matter. It's words, labels, but it helps us as humans understand it. So we enter into this world of form with this whole thing going on of the players that have agreed to play their roles, and there we go. We start from there. So a question always comes up, well, do we have any free will? Well, who is the we, or who is the I, that would have free will? Because basically there's just a character here. There's no real Suzy here separate from the whole game. We're all in it as one. So all that is happening is as spirit or source, or I'm playing out my blueprint, but I'm not separate. And so therefore, there isn't a separate something here to have choice necessarily in whatever decisions are being made, or free will. Now, some say, and I think this is probably true, that at some points we do have free will in terms of we know there's some either memory, we start to remember that we came down to do something, and maybe that can be negotiable if we find we can't do it once we're here in form. or it's something that we just feel we don't want to continue with that contract. That's really what it is. We have contracts with each other. That's the agreement, that I'm going to play this, you're going to play that, and here's how it's going to play out. So from that perspective, we could say that we have free choice, but only under certain situations and conditions. If we can just look at it for what it is, that we come into this form to play out what we volunteered to do. And in that, there's typically a lesson or lessons that we want to learn or we want to experience. But at the same time, so we come in, we have amnesia, we forget it all, we completely forget who we are. We just forget it completely. And we begin to think we're that character that's playing this particular role. And in that is where we resist what's going on, which means we think we're in control. We think we're driving the bus. We think we're the decision maker. And we even put stories together to show how that could be real, right? So when things don't work out the way we want them, then we get into resistance, and then we have reasons for them not working out. Like, I just didn't try hard enough. Being a woman is really difficult in this life, and so there's a lot of bias about what a woman can really do, and so there can be that story. There can be the story, well, I don't have the intelligence to do what I thought I could do. There's all kinds of reasons that something didn't happen. I married the wrong person. I don't have boundaries, so therefore I get taken advantage of. There's a story for every little single thing that could happen, and we buy into that story, and we think that's exactly what happened in our whatever decision we made or whatever circumstance that we're in at the moment. So we take that circumstance. If it's great and what we want, hooray, then there's no resistance. And then we say, it was my decision making that did it, it was my upbringing that caused me to be able to go through tough times. Again, we've got the reasons and excuses. But if we could just always go back to the truth, that this is just a play, it's a dream, we're being dreamt. We're not the dreamer dreaming. We're actually part of the being dreamt. And who's dreaming is that aspect of ourselves that is source or God, that wants to experience life as a human, wants to experience all the senses, the emotions, all the things that appear to be in human life. And then the goal at some point would be to wake up out of this amnesia that we came in with and remember who we are. And if that happens, and it can and it does, then we are at a different reality. Because at that point, we've realized the truth, but we're still in this world of duality, and we still have our contracts to complete, but we have a whole different point of view. We're just being and just really observing what is taking place. We're not in resistance. In fact, we get it. It's like life is just a game. Nothing to get totally upset over or suffer over. It's what we came in to do. So that's one way to be able to actually enjoy this journey for those of us that start to awaken out of it. Now, awakening doesn't mean everything's bliss and bad things never happen and you never fall back into feeling these triggers or resisting, etc. We do. It's a spiral effect, so we kind of go up a spiral as far as we can at some point, and then we might be dropping down because we stretched pretty far. We could do it here, but whoops, we got triggered. And so it's a practicing really at getting better at living our life in a more conscious way. Now, some of the things that can help with this is, first of all, an open mind. I think for some of us, hearing that we're not in control is so freaks us out that we would argue that point. For others of us, we can understand it intellectually, but on an emotional level, we're not getting it. We're still in resistance to whatever it is we don't like. You know, when we hear the word surrender to what is, it can feel to some of us like that means like a doormat, like you're just surrendering, like you have no choice in the matter. Well, you don't actually, but what it really means is to surrender to who we really are, which is this being, source, God, having a human experience. Simple. That's it. But when things get tough, which they might, because that may be our storyline that we've created, then that is a challenge, because we are kind of living in two different worlds, even though there's just one. We're feeling the sense that we're suffering of some tragic event maybe that has taken place, as if being very fearful, maybe being taken in as a prisoner, if it's during a wartime that we've created the play. So some of these things are very, very tough to just give in a way, and it isn't even giving in, but just acknowledging that this is just a storyline. And yet we hear people all the time, there's many stories from the Holocaust where those that somehow were able to get tuned into their own inner world, inner being, were able to be of such great help to those that were around them during that time. So we all know who some of those people are that have written books, etc. There's so many timelines that we could come in, but we think there's just one. So we kind of live our life like this. It's very narrow in terms of what we really could be, because we're basically unlimited and infinity, and are so much more than what we think we are, or we see that we are, or our conditioning from growing up, or programming from our environment has made us, or helped us, or caused us to believe this is it. This is the life. So depending on where you've come from in terms of background, it may be that you came from a place where you were told you've got to go to college and you've got to get a degrees, and you have to plan for the future properly. And you need to get married, have a family, and be a good citizen, and be faithful to your family, and move through life in that way, whatever you've decided, or not, you didn't decide, but whatever happened, that you have become a doctor, a dentist, a social worker, an accountant, whatever it is, a leader of a company, that was the programming, and that's what you need to do. However, if this screenplay says, yeah, this is how it's written, this guy's going to do this for this long, and then there's going to be a horrific incident that's going to happen that's going to completely change the trajectory of this guy's life. And at the time, it's going to look terrible. It's going to look like a nightmare. However, it's going to turn the opportunity for this guy to be able to really look within and find out what's really going on. So, like I said, one of the things that you can do to start to grasp even just a glimpse of what I'm talking about is become open-minded. If you can get to that place of really understanding that you know nothing, I know nothing, you know nothing, we know nothing, because we don't. Because behind the scenes, so to speak, we have what I like to call our crew, that are formless, that have also agreed to be with us during this adventure that we volunteered to be a part of. And so I know you've heard me say this probably many times, but in case you haven't, why do I call it the crew? Well, I liken it to a speed car driver, a speed race driver, who, you know, from the beginning of him training and getting his car ready and whatever for this race, and he getting in shape for this race, and his crew getting the car ready, including him, and giving him all the advice about the particular track that he's going to be running on, whether it's take this curve slowly, you can speed up here, this is what the car can do, here's where you want to be, within the speed, or within what speed you're using, etc. It's his crew. They're with him from the absolute beginning through the entire time. So during the race, they're at the pit stop, and again advising, here, turn left, turn right, don't do this, do that, and cheering him on and giving him the insights that he needs to make this a successful race, at least one he could maybe live through. So this is our crew. We have this crew. So we have so much support that we don't even get. We have all of our supporters, the actors, supporting actors that have agreed to be in our play. And we have then our crew, who is with us 100% always through this entire journey. And we have the fact that we are an aspect of Source or God, whichever you like to call it, just hanging out and having fun, supposedly, hopefully, or at least grasping what's really going on in this particular journey, this particular reincarnation that we volunteered to come into. So it's huge, and it's bigger than that, because as humans we can only understand a small amount of it. So if we can get to the place of really opening the mind and really at least coming to a place of somewhat admitting, maybe we don't get what's going on here. For most of us, probably many of us that are on this path, we got to this place of really going, what the freak is going on here? It doesn't seem like what I thought it was 10 years ago. Maybe you've had experiences now in your life which really showed you you're not in control. Maybe you've had a near-death experience and you've had that knowledge of what's really going on, and that they're really, that where we go back to, but this is the play and this is what's going on. But as when we get back into being a formless self, then this is what that feels like. We lose our fear of death, or most people do during a near-death experience. Or it could just be something in life that shook you up, that knocked you out in a way, in an area where you really could step back and look. How did what happened, and how are you dealing with it? So open the mind, and then what you want to do is give yourself the gift of taking the time every day to meditate and get to know your crew, your guides, whatever you like to call them, on a very personal, just like a no matter what, I know they're their way. Because through that process of just sitting in quiet daily, the inner part of us, that part that really knows what the heck is going on here and could be of such value to us if we were able to listen and get it, then that's what happens when we're sitting quietly. It doesn't happen like, boom, I'll sit for 30 minutes. Okay, I didn't hear anything, I didn't get anything. No, it's over time and a real commitment that you really want to dig down deep, and you really want to get what's going on in this particular journey that you've volunteered to be in. And you kind of can really get excited, enthusiastic about this whole thing. And when you're doing that, what happens is you start to really not be as consumed and driven by, let's call it the outer world, the form, world of form, objects, ideas and beliefs. Really the world that you have believed in for so long. Maybe that's not the way life really is. Opening up to perhaps there's something underneath all that. And what if it's all a dream and I'm being dreamt? Can we open up to that idea? To try to open up to, I do want to understand, or not on an intellectual level, but on a deep level, what's my purpose here? What is my purpose? We all have a purpose. That's the key. We all come in with a purpose. It's just not happenstance, like, oh, show up and you'll figure it out. Nope. We all come in with a purpose. And it's a zillion type of purposes. It's not come in to be the greatest guru or the best leader of the largest company. Those aren't the purposes. It's an inner purpose. So we want to acknowledge that. And again, just keep, what we're doing is we're digging, really. We're digging in. We're using our crew. If we really want to get there, we use our crew to help us see what's really happening, to help us grasp what we're here for, and to really get into the excitement and the, I was going to say understanding, but the experience that we're limitless, that we're no different than being source or aspect of God. There's no limitations on us. There's just infinity. And if we can just remove some of these, we want to call them blinders, or this narrow looking at life, just narrowly looking at, here's what it feels like, here's what it is, here's my little life, here's my little self. It's torture being that. It's suffering. So it's broken down always in pieces. So in some cases, you're hearing talks about to stop resisting what is, because what is, right? And then the resisting of it, you suffer. But then that deeper story, or bigger story to that, if we dig a little deeper, is then to understand that we're not in control, and that this is a play or a book or whatever, and we're in a particular chapter or a particular scene where we want to see what's really going on. So this would be maybe the opportunity to realize that we're resisting what is, and what is supposed to be there, right? It wouldn't be happening if it wasn't supposed to happen. The ego is what we're dealing with, and the ego is really just a frightened child in a way, that took in all these beliefs and programs when we were young, and is now just trying to save us from the problems, from the tiger eating us. And so the ego can be very, very strong because it's very, very frightened. So we have to see the ego, let it know it's been seen, and comfort that ego and soothe that ego. That's another process that we can go through. So the bottom line is there's no one direct way to do this. There just isn't. No one direct way to do this. Yes, some people seem to have found a more direct way, like Eckhart Tolle, who was suffering, and then one day woke up and the suffering was gone. And today he is truly a teacher we value. There's a zillion teachers out there, so even that is difficult as we begin to set off on a journey. Where are we going to find, or what is going to show up as our teacher? Well, the truth is that's probably all been planned in our when we wrote the screenplay, but we don't know that. And but what we do know, if we're on this path, what we do know is there is an urging of wanting to understand what is right in front of us, what is real, and we want to live from that place. We do not want to suffer, but we're only suffering because of we decide to. There's no good or bad. It's all our decision of what's good or bad. We decide something is good or we decide something is bad because that's that programming. It's all equal. It's all just what is. And it's so easy, I know, to say all this, and yet so challenging to actually get it and live it. But we do that through baby steps, a little bit at a time. And I think the first thing that's most important is to open one's mind. In meditation, what I like to do, and I do, is get settled in my body through the breath. And then I will open my crown chakra as wide as I can. And it will vary on different days. It could be as wide as the room or as wide as what I think the world is. But really consciously and see this in my mind of opening that crown chakra to allow in what needs to be seen or heard. I've been in a place lately where my guides are telling me that I need to learn to receive now. That I've been a major doer in my life. And this is where I think I've had the problems in really thinking I was in control because I'm thinking I'm this doer and my whole background was set up to feel that if I didn't do, I wouldn't survive. So it's been a rather challenging journey. And so here I'm at this point in my life, almost 80 years old, and I'm hearing that no more doing in the way you've been doing. This is time to receive and to trust that you're going to receive. And given some of my the circumstances in my life, this is very challenging right now sometimes to really want to get on board with that idea. Yet, when my crew is talking to me, my guides, I know it's absolutely 100% right. And I know it's the way that I'm not going to suffer is to trust and receive. And to finally, once and for all, let go of that need or that belief that the only way I'm going to survive is to be a doer. So I get triggered a lot with this, but there's something when you go within and you keep going deeper and deeper within, you can't deny it. It's kind of strange, but you get at a point where you can't deny it, even though it can look like you are resisting it and you can feel like you're resisting it, but underneath that is the denying of it. You can't, because it's just kind of our intuition. It's that gut level. I know this is right. I know this is true, but I get triggered. So again, it's just baby steps. It's hanging in there. Keep doing it. Don't stop. You want to keep opening up the mind. You want to keep getting insights by going deeper within when you're sitting quietly. Learning to really use your guides. I mean, that's a whole other video, which I'll do one of these days soon. But right now, I just wanted to bring up this subject, and here's what can happen. By just bringing up the idea of we think we're in control, but we're absolutely not. But we want to be in control, but we're absolutely not. And then opening up to the idea, could I really agree, at least, that maybe I'm not in control? So again, it's taking these steps, but it's opening up the concept or the idea right now, which you can kind of chew on. Or it'll come up in your dreams at night, nighttime dreams. Or you'll open to Facebook and you'll see something that resonates with you about, are you really in control? There'll be all kinds of little signs that can come up if you really just open up the mind as much as you possibly can to even a glimpse of entertaining this idea that maybe I'm not in control. On the other side of that, and I've been there, there's a relief. There's a relief of, oh my God, I'm not in control of everything in the whole world and everything around me. It's all been taken care of. It is being taken care of. It's just on a timeline that may be different than what I think it should be. I want things to happen like boom, now, or yesterday. And no, they're not happening yet. I want it now. I want to have this suffering stopped now. So I need this to happen now. Please, God, make this happen now. It can be some of those pleadings that we do. But that's not the way it works. You see, everything is being put into place that we don't even see. So this can't happen until that happens out there, and that happens, and that happens, and then boom, what we've been wanting happens. But not because we've only been wanting it, because that's what was supposed to happen. So this is where we can also just try to open up our mind to whatever is happening right now is exactly perfect and supposed to happen. I don't mean take this in like a Pollyanna. I mean open up just a little bit to maybe there's some truth in that. So hopefully some of this was helpful to some of you. It's a difficult subject because it's not so simple as it's just one thing. It's many things, right, that are linked to each other. But if I could just hopefully, maybe this kind of opened a teeny bit of one's mind for some of you, and maybe for some of you it really had an impact, and maybe for some of you it's like, what is she talking about? I don't know. But I want to thank you for being here, and hopefully, like I said, something came from this. I'd really love it if you would write a comment below and let me know how this did impact you or not impact you, or whatever happened through this conversation. Also, if you like this video, please click on like, and please subscribe to my channel. And if you hit the little bell next to subscribe, then you'll know when new videos are coming up. Again, you guys, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Love you guys. Take care. I have this clicker that I try to turn off this video. I don't know why it's so hard. Shouldn't be. I think it's the operator.